welcome. Halloween is nearly upon us and this wicked witch has lost her book of potions, so I'm going to have to make myself a new one this year. Now, I've made decorative Halloween books in the past and have a nice little collection going here. I've already got a book of herbs, a book of spells. Oh, can't pick it up. Hexes and a book of bats. So today, as I can't find my potion book, I'm going to make a new book of potions. So to make my new book of potions, the first thing I've done is take a visit to my local charity shop and picked up some hardback books. Now, they might be a very good read, and at the end of my project I'm still going to be able to read the story inside. I won't be damaging the print of this book. I definitely advise using a hard cover. I've never tried it on a paperback and I don't think it would work anywhere near as well. So once you've got your chosen book, the first thing we want to do is remove its outer sleeve. If it has one, we'll take this off. So we're back to our plain basic book. Now, I've made a few choices for today's book already. It's going to be a book of potions, I think. When I get to that stage, I might change my mind. I'm going to paint the outside colour a navy blue, and I'm going to highlight it in silver. And the outer edges on the pages I want to do in a pale blue. So that's the first thing I'm going to do now, is the pale blue edge on these outer pages. I've used red edges on my spell book, and it's just the tip of the pages. You can still flick through the book and read it. But when I first started this book, it was just normal paper coloured pages, and I've coloured them in red. So let's get this painted. I've got my paint at the ready. So some blue, and I want to do a pale blue on the inside. So I'm going to start with some white acrylic paint. So some little bit of white in my pot. It won't take very much. And a touch of this blue. Should give us a good turquoisey colour. Oh, that's looking nice. Oh, I'm liking that, looking lovely. The blue I'm adding to my white is a Patholo, I think. Yes, Patholo blue. I'm just going to add a drop of water to this. It won't take much, just to slacken it up a little. Make it more easy to spread. So squeezing together quite tightly the outer cover of our book to hold our pages close together. I'm going to liberally paint on my blue paint. It doesn't matter if you splash it on the cover of your book. We're going to cover that all up later on in the process. Oh, I'm splashing it on the table. Messy worker. And the same at the bottom and the top, all the way round. There, I think I'm all covered. And we'll leave that to dry for time for a cup of coffee. It won't take long, it's only a thin coat of paint. So I'll see you back for the next stage when this is all dry. I'm going to wipe up that mess. Now, just so I don't continue to get paint everywhere, I'm actually going to balance my book on my glass of water, just while these outer edges dry off, because I made a nice messy job. Okay, back from coffee, well, back from lunch actually. So, paint's all dry, not sticky anymore. Move my water out of the way before I knock that over. Now I need to These pages are a little sticky, so we just work our way through separating them so that it'll work as a book. As you see, there's no paint on the inside of the book, it's just the edge of these pages. So just slowly work your way through it, separating all the pages. So now I've separated all those pages. This book is still perfectly readable. So now for the fun part, we get to decorate our cover. I've got my hot glue gun out, but today I'm going to use that to write the word potions in hot glue across the top of my book. And that's what I did with the spell book. The word for spells is written in hot glue, and this spider web was actually made using hot glue just to create the outline of this shape. Now with my book of potions today, I've cut two little cardboard corners, two little cardboard triangles that are going to be corners. I'm going to put these on the two corners of my book and decorate those as well. And another thing I decorate my books with is I have this box of random Halloweeny bits that I have been collecting over the years. You'll get them in your pound stores, the dollar store, is it Dollar Tree? I think I've heard it said on videos. Possibly even in your local supermarkets at the Halloween time of year. You'll find little bags of bats and bugs and spiders. So just all these little plasticky bits. So keep your eye out in your local supermarkets and dollar stores for the little cheapy bags of plastic Halloweeny bits, and they're perfect for decorating your books. I think I might put this guy on the front of my book today. He looks rather splendid. Maybe him and some bugs and beetles along the bottom. Let's see what I can find in my box. So I've got a bat, a couple of flies. I'm going to use him, I think, on the front. Right, let's write potion. So now my glue gun's finally hot. I'm going to go over my pencil and just in hot glue, I'm going to write the word potion because that's the title of my book, Potions. But just like my spell book with its spider web on the front, you can use the hot glue to make any pattern you like on the front of your book. I'm going to want these to go in the corners. And when they do, I'm going to glue these on later, but for now I'll add their hot glue rivets. So now with these two tiny bits of cardboard, I've got a little gluey dot in each corner, and later I will glue these onto our book, and when they're painted over they'll look like they're riveted bits of metal. So I've written potions in my hot glue, and I've got this plasticky figure that I'm going to stick on here. So I want this fella put on here. So let's glue him down. It's the joy of hot glue, it sets so quickly. So some glue on the back of this bat. We'll stick him on. There. Hold him for a second till the glue sets. Shall I write potions down the spine? Yes. Let's do that. So more hot glue. So using the hot glue again, I'm going to write the word potions down the spine of the book, as well as having it on the front. Hold that while it cools. I can open it up a bit. There we go. It'll sit there. So I'm going to let my glue go cold and we can start the next stage of this book. The next thing I'm going to want to do is, all of my books have got this crinkly, textured leather look finish to them. I don't know, leathery, fabricy. But you can feel it as well as see it, all these wrinkles, and it's a paper mache finished effect. Now you can do this with tissue paper, or what I've actually used to do these is kitchen roll. So several sheets of kitchen paper are going to be what we need to cover our books, and some PVA glue. I'm going to water down my PVA glue a little bit so it's nice and wet and dribbly. We're going to mix them up in this little pot with some water to give me a nice watery PVA glue. So I'm going to add a little splash of water to my PVA. I've got an old paintbrush, a scruffy one that I don't mind bashing about a bit, and about 2 or 3 tablespoons of PVA glue to about 2 tablespoons of water. Make a soupy sort of consistency, runny like a thick cream. Are our letters dry yet? Yes, we can start with the front cover. So taking our kitchen tissue, I'm actually going to tear it into strips. So it's just to rough up this neat, tidy square. Now to start adding these to our book. That little tidy square actually is quite good on the corners because we're going to fold it under our book out of the way anyway. So I'm going to use this square edge first. Get lots of glue onto the book. Nice and wet and sloppy. And down with our kitchen paper. Have it hanging over the edges because we're going to want to wrap this around that very front cover, and then more glue on top of that to make the paper all wet and gluey as well. And when we get to where our letters are, let's get another piece here. We'll get all our glued potions writing, get that all wet too with our sloppy, creamy, milky glue. And stick on some pieces of tissue and squash it in with more glue. This is why we wanted an old scruffy paintbrush that you're not concerned about damaging, because we're going to squash it about and treat it very badly for a paintbrush. You wouldn't want to be treating your best brushes like this. Now where our glue letters are, that's in my case says potions, push the tissue into the shape of those letters, and don't worry about any bumps and scrunchies, because that's what we want, are these wild bumps and scrunchies. Another piece, I do have some edges, let's use an edge. I want an edge to go along the edge of the book, so we'll have that up there along that top edge. I'll have this piece, and you can lay pieces of paper, I'll tear that end, I don't want that neat, over the top of other pieces of paper. Get it all nice and wet and gluey. And even with our funny skeleton man or whatever bugs and beetles and things you've stuck on your book, we'll go over the bat. Cover the bat in glue and the book in glue, and stick some tissue over the top of him as well. That'll seal him in. There's no chance of him falling off now. I'm actually going to leave these fingers sticking up. And if you have any neat straight edges like here, you can scrunch them up, fold them under themselves. We'll take another rough edged piece of tissue and stick that on top. So that neat, tidy, all those sharp square corners from the edge of our tissues, we want to cover those up We don't want those on our finished book. So just keep working away at your book cover till everything is covered. And wherever you've got things underneath the tissue, go around with your brush and bash it about to make sure you can still see the definition of those things underneath. You don't want to actually break the tissue away. Though having said that, I've left this skeleton's hands sticking out in the plastic still. I have covered his arm with more tissue though. So where my writing says potions, I want to make sure I can still see the raised lettering of the potions. And here I have a bat, so I shall pat it down over him to make sure I can still see the definition of that bat. So I'll see you back in a moment when our book's all covered. Now with my particular book, now I've given the top cover a complete coating in the tissue. Now is when I'm going to add my little cardboard triangles, because I'd like them to stand out like little metal riveted corners, so they can go on now. I might actually add a little thicker glue for them. So I'll put a dab of glue on the back of my triangle, spread that around everywhere and stick that onto the corners. One here, and it's all going to get painted over so it'll all blend in. Now it gets a little fiddly to work with. I'm going to stand it up on end and wrap this paper around the spine of the book, where I've also written the word potions. So I'll wrap it round and maybe just start into my back cover, but I'll wait until the front is totally dry before I tip the book over and do the same on the flat back surface. So we'll end up with a textured back to our book. Even though it's got no other details, that extra texturing makes it look really good, or I think it does. So now to glue up the spine of our book. Just exactly the same as I did with the front. We're packing that tissue in and around the shape of our letters. I'll bring it up close so you can have a good look. So here's how we're looking, all covered in glue and goo. I don't know how well the camera picks it up. We've got potions written down the spine of the book and potions written in glue here. My skeleton-y man, I've left his hands sticking out all plasticky, but his skull is actually covered in this tissue. And there's a bat down here, also covered in tissue. And then lastly, I added my little cardboard riveted ends that are going to look, when we finished, like little metal plates. So when this side's all dry, we'll come back and I'll glue a back on the same. It's surprising how much they'll scrunch up when I'm patting them about with a paintbrush. They'll give that wrinkled old leathery look. So I'll bring you back when all of the outside is covered in white tissue. So once the outside of your book has all dried off, I'm still a little tacky, but we're not bad. We can fold all these rough, scruffy edges can be folded in neatly. So I've got excess here. I'll cut that off with the scissors. Still leaving some sticking out, but not lots. So you could go all the way round if you need to. So now with some more of our glue, oh, I'm stuck to all the tissue. Going to glue up the inside of our book and fold the tissue onto this surface. So I'm going to fold in my corners first, fold that over, and then put some glue on there to keep all the tissue nice and wet, and then fold in the rest of these edges because they don't want to go. There we go. In you go, fold you over. Now don't worry if this is looking a bit messy. Now you can cut a whole new piece of card or paper to lay it in here and make things nice and neat and tidy. But what I like to do is just take this very last back page of the book, put some glue down, glue up this area, cover it all with a nice even coat of glue. And then if we bring this last page and we fold it over, and it will lay on top and give us a nice neat tidy finish around the inside of our book. And I'll do the same here with this side as well. I'm going to put my wet wipes under here just to hold it partly open so it doesn't stick on that edge, and glue around this edge as well. I've just realised I'm jumping ahead of myself. Because I'm going to give this all a coat of paint, the front and the back, I should have left sticking my inside covers down until after I'd painted everything. Now I'm going to have to be nice and careful along this edge, and I could have been nice and sloppy. Well, that's my mistake. When you're making your book and you fold your edges in, don't put this paper down yet. Wait until we've painted all of the outside and the inside, and then we'll glue this page down. It's one of the very last things we'll do to tidy it up. I was getting all excited and ahead of myself, and I stuck it down too soon. And I'm going to leave this till tomorrow now, and I'll come back to it tomorrow and we'll paint it all and make it look wonderful like the books I've already made. Hello, here we are back the following morning, ready to paint our now dry book and really bring it to life. Now, when I was originally planning my design, I want a couple of these little plastic flies to stick on the bottom of my design, and I was planning to stick those on after I painted it all dark blue, but I've changed my mind. I'm actually going to stick on a couple of the plastic flies now. I know from experience that these little flies come up really nicely with a bit of the highlighting, so I thought I'll stick them onto the cover and they can be blue the same as everything else. So I'm going to stick them on now with a bit of hot glue. So now we're ready to paint this cover blue, because that's my chosen colour. I'm using the same Patholo blue that I used yesterday, mixed with white to give me these page edges. But today I'm just going to use the paint as a neat blue straight out the tube. Well, not totally neat. I will mix it with a little water. Just makes it spread easier. We won't need much. A few splashes from our paintbrush is probably enough. Just to slacken up that blue paint, make it spread easier. So brush loaded up with blue paint. Here we go. Just cover absolutely everything in your wonderful colour. Whether that colour is black, brown, green, purple, cover it all. Get in all those little nooks and crannies that we've created. Now, yesterday I made the mistake on my inner cover. I've already put this black end page and glued it down inside my book. And I should have left that till after I'd painted everything. So I'm going to try and see if I can be really careful today and just paint around this edge quite delicately. But if I make a big mess of it, I'll cut myself a new piece of card or paper and stick that in as an end cover for my book to tidy up this edge. I think I'll just about get away with it. But my mistake, so learn from my mistakes. Don't put this last page, don't glue it down until you've finished painting and the paint has dried for the inside cover of your book. I'm going to put my glasses on to see this bit. I didn't do too bad. I managed to get my inside cover neat enough for me. I'm happy with that. But definitely learn from my mistakes and save this bit till the very end when everything's looking finished. So now we have to be patient and wait for this to dry. It shouldn't take very long. They're acrylic paints. They should dry quite quickly because I still have the back cover to be painted. But I can't turn it over because this paint's still wet. So I'll see you in a moment when this is all dry and we're ready to paint the back. In fact, I won't. I'll see you when all of the book is painted. You don't need to see me painting the back cover. It's pretty boring. So here's our book, all painted and nice and dry and ready for its final coat of embellishments. Now I'm going to use a silver acrylic paint today. Now I'm going to use this as a dry paint. No water needed, I don't think. We might add some water. And I'm squirting that out onto a flat piece of plasticky board. Do you want some more? Maybe a little bit there. So to apply my silver paint onto the book, I'm going to use a dry brush, and I've also got some bits of sponge. Sponge is probably the way I'm going to go. But first of all, I'm going to use my brush just to spread my paint around on my bit of plastic. You could use a saucer or a kitchen plate if you don't have anything else that might work. There we go. Put that paint onto put it on the end of my sponge there. Now we're using this dry, I'm not adding any water. So I'll apply a liberal coating of paint to my sponge and very gently, especially when you first start and you're not sure how the technique's going to work, we slowly dab our sponge over the surface of our book, and it should pick up any raised areas. And it is a very gentle tapping. You don't want to do it hard and heavy. We don't want to leave sponge marks, we just want to highlight the cover of the book. And here's the beginning of the word potions starting to show up. So apply a bit more paint to the sponge and we'll work it over this man. Put it on his fingers and up his arm and across his forehead. There we go.
So just slowly and gently working your way all over your book. And once the front is dry enough, turn it over and repeat the process on the back cover. Even though there's no things stuck in the back of my book, this technique will still highlight that rough, leathery effect.
And not forgetting we want to do the spine on our book as well. You get much better effects by going over it gently several times rather than one big, thick, heavy, splotchy coat to start with. Dab it on, it's not quite enough, give it another dab and just keep slowly and gently patting away till you get the effect you're looking for. It's looking really good. So here's my wonderful Halloween book of potions. Yay! So now this witch can get back to casting her spells. That's it for today, and I'll see you next time. Remember, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it.
If you've enjoyed today's video, don't forget to click that like button and let me know. Click subscribe and YouTube will make sure you see my next video. So bye for now, and we'll see you next time. And don't forget, whatever you're doing, have fun doing it. And lastly, a quick look at my previous Halloween spooky books. I'm gathering together quite a library.